The following contains naughty words like boobs, bottom, and sponge. This program is for mature and immature audiences. Listener discretion advised. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Lusty Literature. I'm Julia Robertson. Today we're going to talk about satirist Jonathan Swift, best known for his novel Gulliver's Travels, in which its titular character explored islands until discovering none had a rest area named after rock star John Bon Jovi. Unlike the rest area located on New Jersey's Garden State Parkway, Jonathan Swift, however, was also known for his lewd poems, one of which you'll hear today, that he wrote when employed by the church, Jonathan Swift having ascended ecclesiastical ranks to become Dean of Dublin St. Patrick's Cathedral, which would have allowed him access to listen to confessions. Father, I'm leaving my husband. Sex with him is like Christmas. It happens once a year. Does it happen on your birthday? No, Christmas Eve. Wait a minute. I always wondered why he insisted on wearing that suit, and once he said to me, "Ho, ho, ho." Long before the invention of that dreadful joke, and of Santa as we'd recognise him, bushy beard, velvet suit, and driving a Coca-Cola truck, Jonathan Swift was born in Ireland in the 1660s, a decade in which, in England, Isaac Newton was inventing the reflecting telescope, whilst over in Wagen, Germany, cuckoo clocks were all the rage. But considering Jonathan Swift was born in this era of scientific advancement, his early life is a mystery, with some scholars claiming he was kidnapped by his wet nurse when a babe, his nursey swaddling him in blankets and sailing away with him across the Irish Sea. Yet other scholars say, poppycock, that Jonathan's mother accompanied them on that trip only for her to then say goodbye to her son and his nursey upon reaching England, until such point that her lad no longer crapped in his nappy. This then practice of paying someone poorer than you to bring up your children, very popular amongst the moneyed. But the question of who was Jonathan Swift's father is also controversial. The man cited on his birth certificate having died of syphilis 7 months before Jonathan was born. That means the man could have been his dad, yet some scholars believe that Jonathan Swift's real papa was Irish courtier Sir John Temple, who sat in both the Irish and the English House of Commons. But on factual ground is this. When Jonathan Swift was a young man, he was once employed by Sir John Temple's son, Sir William, as a private secretary. And it was at Sir William's estate, with its mansion and riverside views and meticulously laid out rose garden, that Jonathan fell in love with a girl named Esther Johnson, whom Jonathan nicknamed Stella. Jonathan then recommending to the child books to improve her education. Yet as Esther, or Stella, blossomed into a beguiling young woman, the pair began spending so much time together that some thought they had secretly wed. Something that Esther and Jonathan laughed off. Until Esther tragically died in her 40s. Jonathan left bereft without her. Him living more than 15 years without her friendship until he too was buried by her side in the grounds of St. Patrick's Cathedral, his place of work and of worship. Today's poem by Jonathan Swift that you're about to hear is a scatological one, in that it mentions poop, or as my friend's daughter likes to say, the brown word. The poem's title is Strephon and Chloe. And in the poem, Swift advises readers to pursue long-term friendships, not romanticism if it's happiness they seek. The poem's pragmatic approach towards love arguably influenced by Jonathan's friendship with Esther. Although Jonathan Swift was also an admirer of French philosopher Montaigne, who famously wrote in the 1500s, "Kings and philosophers shit, and so do ladies," reminding us never to place another mortal on some imaginary pedestal. Because from King Charles to Hugh Jackman to myself, everybody poops, pees and farts, albeit mine smell like roses. When the poem Strephon and Chloe was first published in the 1730s, it was a huge hit amongst its readers. But you might still be wondering, what kind of a man's name is Strephon? In the 1970s, Strephon was often chosen by poets to be an archetypal name to represent a single man living in the country about to fall in love. Just as these days some folk use the name Karen as shorthand to describe an affluent white woman living in the suburbs about to be filmed on someone's iPhone screaming something racist. Final tidbit before you hear the poem. When Jonathan Swift wrote his poem Strephon and Chloe, people in North America often used whatever was to hand to wipe their backsides. Often corn cobs, since toilet paper did not become widely available until the 1800s when some folk called it bum fodder. Please enjoy this abridged version of Jonathan Swift's Strephon and Chloe. Of Chloe all the town has rung, by every size of poet sung. So beautiful a nymph appears but once in 20,000 years. By nature formed with nicest care and faultless to a single hair. Her graceful mien, her shape, her face, confessed her of no mortal race. And then so nice and so genteel. Such cleanliness from head to heel. No humours gross or frowsy streams, no nice and whiffs or sweaty streams. Before, behind, above, below, could from her taintless body flow. Her dearest comrades never caught her squat on her hams to make maids water. You'd swear that so divine a creature felt no necessities of nature. In summer, had she walked the town, her armpits would not stain her gown. At country dances, not a nose could in the dog days smell her toes. Dear Venus, Hide this wondrous maid, nor let her loose to spoil your trade. While she engrosseth every swain, you but o'er half the world can reign. Young Strephon sighed so loud and strong, he blew a settlement along, yet bravely drove his rivals down to woo the bashful nymph withal, till her papa to him command that Chloe and Strephon shall be as one. Proceed we to the marriage rites. Imprimus, at the temple porch, stood Hymen with a flaming torch. The smiling Cyprian goddess brings her infant loves with purple wings, but still the hardest part remains. Strephon had long perplexed his brains, how, with so high a nymph, he might demean himself the wedding night. For when he viewed his person round, mere mortal flesh was all he found. His hand, his neck, his mouth and feet, he duly washed to keep him sweet, along with other parts said nameless, for fear the ladies find him shameless. Whereas Chloe with her fragrant skin exhaled ambrosia from within. Could such a deity endure his mortal human touch impure? And what if he should lose his life by adventuring on his heavenly wife? For Strephon could remember well that once he heard a schoolboy tell how Semele of mortal race by thunder died in Jove's embrace. And what if daring Strephon died by lightning shot from Chloe's eyes? While these reflections filled his head, his bride was put in form to bed. He followed, stripped, and in he crept, but far away his distance kept. Now, ponder well, ye parents dear, forbid your daughters guzzling beer, and make them every afternoon forbear their tea, or drink it soon, for fear they will arise at night. Nor let them taste what causes wind, for think of evils that ensue out flying onto wedding sheets one blast that quells young passion's fires. In bed, we left the married pair. 'Tis time to show how things went there. Strephon, who had been often told that fortune still assists the bold, resolved to make his fast approach, but Chloe drove him back, for Strephon had not chosen well. So freely now, I tell thee true. 12 cups of tea, with grief I speak, and now constrain the nymph to leak. As ships are tossed by waves and wind, steeled out her hand by nature led, and brought a vessel into bed. A fair utensil, smooth and white as Chloe's skin, almost as bright. Strephon then heard the fuming rill as from a mossy cliff distill. Cried out, "Ye gods, what sound is this? King Chloe, heavenly Chloe!" He found that as the scent increased, she was as mortal as he at least. And as the wet occasion pressed, he boldly sent his hand in quest to reach the pot on t'other side. And as he filled the reeking vase, he let fly a rouser in her face. How great a change! How quickly made her lovers learn a spade On box of cedar sits the wife and makes it warm for dearest life. And by the beastly way of thinking find great society in the stinking. Rash mortals, ere you take a wife, contrive your pile to last for life. Since beauty scarce endures a day, and youth so swiftly glides away, let prudence and good nature strive to keep esteem and love alive. Then come old age whene'er it will, your friendship shall continue still. Thank you for listening to today's lusty literature. Next time, we'll talk about the novel Fanny Hill, written by Englishman John Cleland in the 1700s. But Fanny Hill the novel has often been banned, since it features more bosoms than Bridgerton and more bonking than during a nationwide blackout. You've been warned. Goodbye.